That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, I am very excited to dive into these waiver wire wide receivers because honestly, they're way better than what we have at the running back position this week. And I will say real quick, I know a lot of fantasy football analysts this week are going to be telling you to look at Dez Bryant on your waiver wire. I am not one of them. Guys, I stand by the fact that Dez Bryant is not going to be a truly impact player in fantasy football. Y'all know I said as soon as he signed, and you were asking me like 3 or 4 weeks ago now if you should be picking him up for your fantasy football rosters. I said no, do not waste that spot. If Dez Bryant comes out here and provides us top 15 wide receiver production in points per game in 2020, I would go out there and get my belly button pierced and make a YouTube video out of it for y'all. I am so confident that that is not going to happen. Please do not waste a roster spot. I love the wide receiver. He was one of the best wide receivers in the game a long time ago, but still, that was a long time ago. We had not seen a Dez Bryant reception since 2017 beforehand, and with Dez Bryant, he was not even efficient whenever he was seeing those targets. Please do not waste a roster spot on Dez. All right, so now let's get into these wide receivers. And let's start it off with a wide receiver that I'm actually a lot more excited about than a guy like Dez Bryant. And this is going to be Corey Davis. Okay, so if y'all are new to a waiver wire video from us, we are going to go in order from the leagues that are the most shallow to the leagues that are the deepest. Really trying to cover everything here. Right now, Corey Davis is available in about half of Yahoo Fantasy Football leagues. And with Corey Davis, I actually really advised a ton of people on Patreon to start him this week. And I know people on Patreon were DMing me back saying, Mason, what do you see in Corey Davis? And I stood by the fact that this Tennessee Titans and Baltimore Ravens game was going to be higher scoring than most people were projecting. Just understanding that the Tennessee Titans offense can put up points against whoever, and the Baltimore Ravens were going up against a bad Tennessee Titans defense with Lamar Jackson, who, yes, has not proven to be anything close to the quarterback that he was in 2019, but he's still a better than average quarterback option. So here, really, I thought the game script was going to be fantastic. But what I really like about Corey Davis is that he is an every down wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. He also has that profile to be an alpha at the NFL level. I mean, if you look at his college statistics out of Western Michigan, if you look at his draft capital, and we do not have his size adjusted athleticism just because he was injured with his hamstring way back in the 2017 pre-draft process, so we did not see him at the NFL Combine. But really, he compared to a player like Julio Jones. Like, he was a Julio Jones type prospect just from a smaller school. I mean, Corey Davis definitely has the talent. He's an every down player on one of the best offenses in the entire NFL. I don't think we can rank him as a top 24 wide receiver by any means, just because of how much talent there is at the wide receiver position, but he's actually been consistent in seeing volume. He had a massive play this week against the Baltimore Ravens. So with Corey Davis, especially during nice matchups, he's always going to be a player that's in consideration for me at the very minimum in one of my flex spots, if not my wide receiver too. All right, so now let's get to our next wide receiver, someone that I actually dropped down once Teddy Bridgewater was officially listed as an active for this game. Still had a massive performance, and this is Curtis Samuel. So guys, with this Curtis Samuel production, the most impressive thing is that this came in a game where we actually got some production from DJ Moore. Really leading into this week, when we were evaluating DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel, both of these wide receivers had their previous spike week performances, but they were really alternating week to week in who was going to be productive, while Robbie Anderson maintained that #1 wide receiver role in terms of the targets he was seeing on this Carolina Panthers offense. Well, this week we saw Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore both put up great performances for our fantasy football rosters. What's also nice about Curtis Samuel is he is actually still extremely young, where it makes sense that he is going to continue to progress as the year goes on. He's an elite level athlete. This also came in a game with PJ Walker instead of Teddy Bridgewater. So all signs point to Curtis Samuel continuing to progress as the season goes on. On top of that, we don't have clarity on when we are going to be getting Christian McCaffrey back into this offense. Until we see McCaffrey back, I think that Curtis Samuel maintains his larger role right now. And yeah, I mean, I think we can reevaluate when CMC is back. But for now, Curtis Samuel is going to be a player that, very similar to Corey Davis, in plus matchups, I think you have to consider, knowing that with his athletic profile, really he has a massive, massive ceiling. All right, so now our next wide receiver, I was very surprised to see how available he still is in fantasy football leagues, almost available in 60% of Yahoo leagues. But Michael Pittman. Right now, guys, with Michael Pittman, he actually really impressed me this past week. Y'all know with Michael Pittman, at least in our Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues, when we were evaluating him coming into the NFL Draft out of USC, I loved Michael Pittman. I really thought that he was a complete wide receiver, and he was going to be the wide receiver 2 on this offense, only behind Paris Campbell. We never thought that T.Y. Hilton was going to be an option ahead of Michael Pittman, given Michael Pittman's talent profile. Now he goes up against Jaire Alexander. We see Pittman still log in over 60 yards and a touchdown. Now, yes, this was not necessarily a great game in terms of his overall volume, but like I said, it was a bad matchup. I think in great matchups going forward, we're actually going to see Michael Pittman heavily utilized as the wide receiver 1 in Indianapolis. And very similar to a player like Curtis Samuel, Michael Pittman is still so young that it would only make sense for him to continue to progress as a talent as the season goes on. Philip Rivers has actually really surprised me over the past few weeks. I was really ready to label Philip Rivers as one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL after pretty much a month of starting for the Indianapolis Colts. He had no arm strength whatsoever. He was making just very dumb mistakes where he was turning the ball over at an incredible rate. But since then, Philip Rivers has actually looked extremely strong behind the best offensive line that he has ever seen. I can only imagine what we would see from Andrew Luck right now with this team situation. But Michael Pittman, everything is pointing for him to be a high-end wide receiver 3, low-end wide receiver 2 for our teams the rest of the way. I know that does not necessarily sound extremely appealing, but when you're getting that type of production off the waiver wire, I think we have to take notice, especially given the fact that he's a rookie and he could continue to progress. All right. So now let's get to our next rookie wide receiver, available in about 95% of leagues. I have no idea why. I don't even think that we should bring him up because he was on our video last week. But Denzel Mims. Denzel Mims right now fits a very similar mold to a player like Michael Pittman, where he is that rookie that could continue to progress as the year goes on. And he was also that 4-year player coming out of Baylor, where we thought that he was going to be NFL ready right away. He landed in a situation where we thought he was going to be able to accumulate a good amount of targets. He actually has an elite athletic profile. The only problem that I thought we were going to see with Denzel Mims is Jamison Crowder just soaking up so many targets in this offense, which happened whenever there was no Brashad Perriman and Denzel Mims. But now it looks like Denzel Mims is fully locked and loaded as an every down player for this New York Jets offense. The one worry is maybe he's going to operate a little bit more as a field stretcher rather than just a traditional X-type wide receiver. But I think if you look at this overall New York Jets wide receiver core, yes, this team is horrendous, but I actually really like how they constructed it and that they have their field stretcher in a Brashad Perriman, they have their slot guy in a Jamison Crowder, and they have their X wide receiver in a Denzel Mims. Clearly, the situation is not ideal for Denzel Mims playing in the worst franchise in the NFL. But still, I think he has the talent profile. He has the ceiling where we're going to have to take notice. We're going to have to go there and pick him up on our rosters. All right. So now our last wide receiver who had the best game out of any of these guys, but honestly, the guy I'm least excited about, Damiere Bryd, available in 98% of Yahoo Fantasy Football Leagues. Just absolutely smashing this week against the Houston Texans, really making everybody, including myself, who started Jacoby Myers, look foolish. But what I will say here with Damiere Bryd is, yes, he's always been a full down player for this New England Patriots offense, but he's really operating as that field stretcher. He's not ever going to really prototype to be someone that is a target hog in his offense. We actually had Jacoby Myers averaging about 38% of the team's target share coming into this week over the past month. Clearly, we can never see anything like that from Damiere Bryd. I think if anything, this is going to be a random pop-off game for him, but we have to put in our work. We have to go out there, and if we have that extra roster spot, just spend it on Damiere Bryd, because maybe we see after this massive game that they decide to change his role slightly. Generally, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's more of a product of Cam Newton just being forced to throw the ball with a ton of volume this week to catch up with Deshaun Watson. So yeah, I mean, he's available in 98% of leagues. If you're playing in an extremely deep league, take a shot on him. But honestly, I think I would be more excited about the players with some more upside, like a Denzel Mims, a Michael Pittman, or Curtis Samuel, and a Corey Davis. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Really, really helps us out. And I hope I'll see y'all in the live stream tonight, tomorrow night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, whenever y'all want to. Come out. I'll be here. We'll be hanging out with everyone in the flock.